Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to this week's version of the Fall Nutrition Series. Today we're going to be going through, sorry, I'm just going to put this on mute for a second. All right. 1 second here. Hello and welcome to week 3 of the Fall Nutrition Series. Today we're going to be making Thai pumpkin soup. Obviously, pumpkins are in season right now in Ontario. I hope you guys have been enjoying the last couple weeks of this series. Everything we have here you can get at your local grocery store. I'm going to go through the recipe. I'm going to cook it with you guys. And then as we go along, I can tell you what you can sub if you don't have something on hand. But we'll go through a full ingredient list of what you're going to need. I have everything out in front of me, so I'll just pull it up, show you what you need in what amounts. After the video is recorded, we'll send it out. We'll send you a full ingredient list as well as the steps, instructions. So no need to take notes. If you want to take notes, that's totally cool. If you have any questions, you can check them out. If you want to pop up on the video, that's cool as well, or you can just throw them in the chat. So we'll start off by going through what ingredients we're going to need. We'll start off with what we're going to cook everything in. You can use canola oil, any sort of vegetable oil that has like a light taste. I'm going to use avocado oil today. I like using avocado oil because it's a bit healthier, and you can cook it at a pretty high temperature. We're going to be sauteing a lot of our vegetables, so you're going to want to cook it in an oil that has a high smoking point, which means you can cook it at a higher temperature before it starts to burn. It also breaks down the quality of the oil. The lower the smoking point, the higher you heat it. So we want to keep all those nutrients intact. So we're going to be using a avocado oil, but you can use olive oil. It's a bit lower, has a bit of a lower smoking point. Coconut oil, because we are using coconut milk, you could use coconut oil as well. But something that's light tasting and has a high smoke point. We're going to need a medium-sized white onion. So I have mine here. Obviously, you can pick up a white onion at the grocery store. I wouldn't use anything but a white onion. If you go with like a Spanish or a yellow onion, it might be a bit too sweet. The white onion is the way to go. Purple onion too might be a little bit longer to take. So just if you have a purple onion on hand, just make sure you're cooking it a bit longer. Okay. You're going to need 2 garlic cloves. Obviously, garlic you can get locally as well. If not, they import it at the grocery store, but if you can get to like a farmer's market, they should have garlic that you can buy. Local grocery store will have Ontario garlic as well. It might be a bit more expensive, but it's fresher, so it's the way to go in my opinion. Some of the garlic that you get that's imported, it's sitting around and drying out, but the fresher Ontario garlic will have a way more intense flavor. Okay. Ginger as well, you can get this. It's actually you can get it at farmers markets in Ontario as well, but usually it's imported. Grocery stores, no frills. Any grocery store will have ginger on hand. Make sure it's fresh. It's not too dried out. You're only going to need a little bit, but it's pretty cheap. You can get like a whole hunk of ginger for a pretty good price. So if you want, you can also get like the jars of ginger as well. It might be a better option for the price to get this in bulk. We're also going to need lemongrass. Lemongrass might be tricky to get at your local grocery store. I'll show you what it looks like. I just got to remember where I put it. It's over here. So the lemongrass that I got from Metro, which comes in a little package like this. Sometimes you can get it fresh with the herbs in like a big bulk, but because I just grabbed this locally at the grocery store, that comes in a little package like that. We're only going to need 1 stock today. Unfortunately, it comes in usually 5 or 6 stocks, but all more reason to make another batch or a big batch of this. We're also going to need red curry paste. Red curry paste is a bit spicier than green. Green curry is a bit milder. I like spicy food, so I'm going to go with a red curry paste today. You can get this in a can or a jar. Sometimes it comes frozen in a bag as well. We're only going to need a little bit of this, but again, keep it on hand. Once you open it, throw it in the fridge. We're going to be using 3 teaspoons. If you like your food spicier, you can go with 4 or 5 teaspoons. If you don't like it as spicy, you can use a green curry paste. It's going to be a bit milder. We have our pure pumpkin puree. Make sure you get the pure pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie filling, because it's going to have a lot of sugars in it, and it's going to obviously add too much sugar to the recipe. It's going to throw the taste off. So make sure you get pure pumpkin, pureed pumpkin. We're only going to use half a can of this, so save the other can. You can freeze it or throw it in your fridge. Then we're going to use a whole can of coconut milk. Make sure it's the high-fat coconut milk. If you want to decrease the calories in this recipe, you can use a low-fat coconut milk, but it's not going to have the same texture. It's going to be more watery. I prefer mine a bit thicker, so I'm going to use full fat, but by all means, you can switch that up. You're going to need salt. I'm just using pink Himalayan salt. Whatever you have on hand works. The salt you just add to taste. We're also going to need chicken broth. So I have, I found actually Thai chicken broth. So it's going to have like Thai flavors in there, but you can use a regular chicken broth as well. Just need a cup of this. Again, you can freeze this. You can freeze it in an ice cube tray if you want, or you can put it in the fridge if you're going to be making a couple other soups. What else? We got lime. So we're going to need three tablespoons of lime. And then what I'm going to do actually at the end is also zest some lime into the soup mix once it's cooked. You're also going to need, with the limes, I'm going to show you a trick too on how to get the most juice out of your lime, because sometimes it's a bit tricky to get a full tablespoon per lime, but I'll show you a little trick that we can use to do that. The next couple things are kind of optional add-ins. I'm going to throw in some green onion. I love cilantro, so I'm going to throw in some cilantro as well at the end. When you cook cilantro, it takes on a different flavor, so it's best to add this at the end just before serving. And then I'm going to throw in some peppers on top as well. I'm going to dice those up and just garnish it with the peppers. Again, if you don't like spicy food, then you can leave that out, or you can get the green chilies. They're a bit milder, but those are the chilies there. I'm going to dice that up, put it on top at the end. So that is all the ingredients. Again, I'm going to send everybody a list of all the ingredients that are in this recipe, so you have it on hand, so you don't have to go back and rewind. I know I went through those pretty quick, but those are all the ingredients. Like I said, it's not too many things involved. And what I like about this recipe is, even though there's not a lot of different ingredients, there's a huge flavor component to the soup. There's lots of layers, and you can add protein too. So if you want, I know a lot of people might want to increase their protein intake. So if you want to add in some thinly sliced chicken, you want to cook that first and then add it at the end, or shrimp. Shrimp's really good as well. Or you can throw some tofu if you're a vegetarian or vegan. Chickpeas are also good too. You can either boil them up, add them in, or you can put them at the beginning, like a can of cooked chickpeas, just to increase the protein. Okay, so we're going to start by chopping up our vegetables. So we have our onion here, and what I'm going to do is grab a bowl to add our chopped vegetables in, and you want to have probably a bowl for your scraps as well, so you have quick cleanup. You can have something quick on hand to throw the tops and bottoms of your onion. And the first layer, it's like a papery layer, so you want to get rid of that. Obviously, you want to reduce our food waste, so try to keep as much as you can on the onion, and also compost it. Don't throw it in the garbage. If you have a garden, you can use that as like a compost mix in your soil. So I'm just going to get rid of the 2 top layers. Okay, and then what I like to do is take my onion and put it on the flat side. So I cut off both sides, so it's nice and flat. It's easier and safer to cut with. From there, I'm going to cut it in half lengthwise, just like that. I'm going to put that on the side, and then you're going to slice this way. You can hold your hands there, slice across, just like the slices we made, top and bottom. Watch your fingers, make sure you're moving your fingers out of the way as you go. And you want to keep the onion together. Just makes it a bit easier to chop into small pieces, okay? Obviously, you don't want huge pieces of onion in your soup. Just make sure you make small pieces. Now it's easier to just cut into little chunks there, almost like a dice. Again, just keep an eye on your fingers. Make sure you're moving them back as you slice them up. It's okay if you lose some off your cutting board. I have a pretty small cutting board here. Usually I like to use a big cutting board, but actually just started a dishwasher before we started the class. So from there, I'm just going to put this into my bowl. So I have it ready to drop in once I'm ready to cook it. There's one half, I'll do the other half now, same thing. You're just going to put it sideways there. You can see my bottom there, top there, and I'm just going to go across. Okay, I'm going to try to keep it together as I slice it. So go all over the cutting board. Just using my thumb and my fingers to hold it together. And make one more slice there. Okay, and twist it that way. Dice it. It's really easy to go through. You don't have to make too many cuts. Maybe a bunch of pieces, that's okay. Again, just be careful. Make sure you're moving your fingers so they're out of the way. So there's my whole onion cut up pretty quick. I'm just going to keep that to the side. My onion's done. I'm going to go back and cut my, I'm going to grate my garlic, or I'm going to chop my garlic or mince it, and then I'm going to grate my ginger, okay? So we'll start with the ginger. You're just going to find a piece like this. I'm just trying to figure out which camera angle to use here. So I'm just going to cut off a little thumb-sized piece, and I'm going to peel it a little bit. So just take the skin off. It's a really thin layer of skin. Try to keep as much ginger intact as possible. You can use a vegetable peeler as well if you want, but try to get as much of that skin off as possible without cutting off too many chunks of the ginger. Okay, and then you need just a teaspoon, okay? So I'm just going to grab my grater. You can use, there's a micro grater you can use too. I don't have a fancy micro grater, so I'm just going to use a regular cheese grater at the smallest setting. So you can see here, I have my ginger. I'm going to grate a teaspoon, okay? So what you can do is either you can set your teaspoon up and grate it right into the teaspoon, or you can just grate it onto your cutting board and measure it with the teaspoon, okay? So let's see how much I can get in there. And you don't want big chunks of ginger either. It's a pretty intense flavor. So the smaller you can get it, the better. Again, you want to make sure you don't get any of the skin on there. Okay, so that was about a finger size piece of ginger, which should give you about a teaspoon. I'm going to put that in my teaspoon there, and I'm just going to put it to the side. Okay. I have a teaspoon of ginger. I have my whole onion. I'm going to move on to my garlic. You're going to need 2 cloves of garlic. Okay. So I have my cloves here. I'll show you a quick little trick. What you can do with your garlic instead of having to sit there and peel it and get it in your fingernails is you just put the one side of your knife against it, take your fist. Sorry about that. That'll be on the outtakes. So what happened there was the garlic went shooting across. But you can see it's really easy to peel now. I'll do it one more time with the other clove. Peel, it comes off really easy like that. I'm going to do it a bit more gentle here. So take your knife. You can use 2 cutting boards too instead if you want, and just give it a pound there. Flip it, do it one more time. It makes it easy to peel there. You can see I don't want to sit there and get it all over my nails. It comes off pretty quick. It also gets some of the oils out of the garlic too, so you get a really awesome flavor from the garlic. Makes it a bit more intense. What you can do is start mincing it. Be very careful not to cut your fingers. You want to do thin slices first. Okay, just take it to the side. Make sure you have enough room here to cut. I'm just going to make sure I have it cutting on a flat surface here so it's safer. Again, thin cuts right through. Make sure you're moving your fingers back. If you have a garlic press or even a mincer as well, you could mince this just like we did with the garlic, or sorry, that we did with the ginger. Do that if you want. I'm just going to do this, put it in a pile, and then keep cutting. Okay, and you just push it around so that you can cut them into smaller pieces, and you can move your knife around. So I hold my knife like this. Proper way is to hold it like this. Use whatever technique's more comfortable for you. I find this way it's easier for me to control the knife, but there's less power in the cut. So you can play around and figure out what you like to use. And just push off any of the garlic that's on your blade. Just put it back onto your cutting board. Obviously, you want to make sure that we're washing your hands before we cut anything. So I can already smell the garlic and the ginger, making me pretty hungry here. It's a nice flavor combo. Okay, so that's minced up pretty good. Again, you don't want to have too big a chunks of garlic or ginger because they're pretty intense. So just make sure they're diced up. So I'm going to leave that there. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is heat up the skillet. Now that I've cut up all the ingredients, I'm going to heat up my skillet here. Put that there so you guys can see that. I'll move this out of the way. Okay, so this is my skillet here. You can use, you don't need to use this cast iron. You can use a non-stick skillet as well. You can even use a pot, but you want to turn your element on to about medium high. And I'm going to add my oil, so 3 tablespoons. I'm going to eyeball mine, but you can measure yours out. We're going to need enough oil to start to saute the vegetables, okay? So just move the oil around so it's coated the bottom of either your pan or your pot. You want something that has a lip on it because this is what your soup's going to go into as we're cooking it. Okay, I'm just going to move these out of the way. So now that we have our onion ready, we have our ginger and our garlic. We're going to start to heat this up to a medium-high heat. You want to make sure that you wait until it's high, otherwise the vegetables will kind of soak up the oil. And we don't want them to soak up oil. We want them to basically cook in the oil. Okay, we don't want soggy, oily vegetables. While we're waiting for the oil to heat up, what we can do is start to bruise and cut up our lemongrass. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to heat up, I'll show you how to bruise and cut lemongrass. The reason why we bruise it first is to release some of the oils within the lemongrass. So it's going to give us that nice lemon flavor. You're going to want to use either the broadside of a knife, like we did, or if you have a mallet, a meat tenderizer, you can use that too. You're going to do that on a cutting board. I'm just going to move my garlic over. So you don't want to like completely smash it, just bruise it. You want to lay it flat down on, I don't know if you guys can see that there. I'm kind of working behind my hand. So I'll move it quickly for a second. So you're just going to bruise it by holding it down. Too intense. And from there, just like our other ingredients, you want to make really, really thin cuts and dice it up, okay? Put this down here. And you're just going to cut it just like we did the garlic and onion and the ginger, really thin pieces. It is kind of woody, so you want to make sure it's really thin. We're not going to cook it too long. Really, really thin pieces. You should be able to smell it now. If you bruise it enough, you'll smell the oils come out. I'm just going to bruise a little bit. Nice and thin, thin, thin. You want to make sure, like I said, it gets kind of woody, so you want to make sure you cut it up thin so you're not getting big chunks of lemongrass in your soup. So from there, our oil is getting pretty hot. You can put your hand over it and feel it there. I'm going to put in my onion. You should hear a little bit of a sizzle. If you hear that sizzle, it's a good indication that it's hot enough now. We're going to cook that on medium high for 5 minutes. You want to make sure that you're cleaning up your workspace. So you have your mallet out, you can clean all this up while you're cooking your onion. It will take 5 minutes. Just keep your eye on it, make sure you're stirring it so that all the onion gets cooked evenly. You don't want to get overcooked and undercooked onion. You want to make sure it's all evenly cooked. So I'm going to spread it out along the pan. Okay. We're going to cook that for another 4 minutes. If you want, what you can do now, while you're waiting for that to cook, is cut up your cilantro, your chili peppers, and your green onion. These are all things we're going to add at the end. Okay, we don't add it to the pot; you add it at the end. Again, if you're not particularly fond of spicy food, don't throw these in; they're very spicy. Or you can use the green ones. Onion, cilantro. Some people don't like cilantro. If you don't particularly enjoy cilantro, you can throw a different herb there if you want. Parsley would be good as well. You can kind of play around with some chives. It's really up to you to add whatever herbs you like. Thai basil is good, regular basil is good. I like to add that in there as well. So whatever you'd like, add it at the end. Don't add it while you're cooking your other ingredients. It's not going to have that same flavor. But you can do that while your onion's cooking, so you're not standing around watching your onion cook. You're also going to need a blender for this recipe. We're going to blend, after everything's cooked up and mixed together, we're going to blend it so the soup gets more of a soup consistency, less like a stew. So keep in mind you're going to want to have a blender handy or an immersion blender as well. You don't need anything high powered, just something to kind of chop up and I'm losing my words here, but basically liquefy, soupify your vegetables. So it's more of a soup and less of a stew, okay? You can use an immersion blender too, right in your pot if you want. You use it in a pot. You don't necessarily need a big blender. All right, so we're gonna let this cook for a little bit longer. Again, like I said, right now you can use this time to cook or chop up your herbs, whatever herbs you like to add in. Move it out of the way. We can also get our lime ready, okay? So I'll show you a quick trick to get as much lime out of your, as much lime juice out of your limes as possible. You can do one of two things. You can hold it in your hand and try to release the juices this way. You can put your hand on the counter and just go back and forth with it against your hand on the counter. That squeezes a lot of the juice out of it. So when you cut it, you'll be able to squeeze a lot more than if you just slice it in half right away and try to squeeze it. Okay, so I made that with all my limes. You get about a teaspoon or tablespoon of lime per lime, but some limes don't have as much juice, so just keep that in mind. Some people also recommend throwing it in the microwave for a couple seconds. I don't like the taste of lime when it's heated up, so I like doing it this way. I'm just gonna keep my eye on my onions there. Okay, so I'm just going back and forth with the limes. Our onion's been cooking for about 5 minutes, so we can go to the next step, which is to put our ginger and our garlic. We're gonna keep it at the same level. So just move this around a little bit. When I say same level, I mean same temperature. So you take your ginger, just put it in, and with your onion. You take your lemongrass, also put that in. Okay. And my garlic. Okay. I'm gonna move that out of the way. You're gonna give that a stir again. Let everything saute. The onion should be getting nice and soft. Now this is like one of my favorite parts of cooking is when you throw in all the aromatics of the ginger and the garlic. It smells really, really good. My house is probably gonna smell like lemongrass, ginger, garlic, and onion for a couple of days. So if you want, you can open your window because it is a really strong scent. So open up your windows. If you have a good day, you can turn that on too. Okay, give that a good stir. From there, I'm gonna take out my my red curry paste, and this is gonna be to your taste. Like the recipe that we're doing today is gonna be 3 tablespoons, but you want to go with maybe a bit less, or go with a green curry if you don't like spice. Obviously, if you can't handle spice at all, use a green curry and only use like a tablespoon. But you are getting a lot of flavor from the curry paste, so remember that. So I have 3 tablespoons there, and you're going to stir that up now. So you have the curry paste, the ginger, the garlic, lemongrass, and the onion. So again, I put 3 tablespoons, but feel free to use less or more depending on what level of heat you like. And you can use canned curry paste or in a jar. Sometimes it comes in a tube as well. I'm just gonna put a little bit more. Yeah, that's kind of spicy, so I put a little bit more. And you want to make sure it doesn't burn. You're just heating it up, releasing some of the aromatics from the curry paste. And it should be red now. It should be a nice red color with all the vegetables that are in there, the onion, the garlic, the ginger. Okay, I'm going to turn it down a bit. And you're just going to let that cook for another 3 minutes before you add in our other ingredients. So just kind of let it simmer. You can throw in some salt to taste if you want. It's really a matter of preference, how much salt you want. There is going to be a lot of salt in your canned curry paste, so just keep that in mind. So if you are using a cast iron, if it's been on this whole time, it will start to heat up pretty intensely. So just make sure you keep stirring around and reduce the heat a little bit. So what we're going to do now is add our liquids. So we're going to add a cup of chicken broth. Again, I found this Thai chicken broth, which is pretty much perfect for this recipe. Found it at the grocery store. I'm going to put a cup in. You can add it right in. Make sure you give it a nice shake first. Okay. And then you're going to add your pumpkin. Just going to grab a measuring cup here. So you add your pumpkin in here. Give it a stir so that none of your ingredients are kind of sizzling on the bottom. Add your pumpkin. So it's about a half of a can. These are bigger cans here. I think this is the 796 milliliter, and you want to use about 400 to 500 milliliters. Okay. So I'm just going to stir that in. You want to make sure that you're getting around your whole pan so you're not burning any of the onion. So we have our broth and our pumpkin. And now you want to add your coconut milk. So it's a whole can. So don't be worried if it separates, especially these days. It's a little bit cooler in our homes because it's not summer anymore. So you'll get some separation, but once it heats up, it'll actually start to kind of blend back together. So now that you have the coconut milk in there, you'll see it get a lighter color of red or orange. And as that heats up, the coconut milk will be easier for it to mix in. Again, just make sure you're scraping the bottom because you don't want anything too burnt. So you can see it's more like a soup now, less like a stew. And if you find that it's thickening up too much, you can add a bit of more broth. So just keep that broth handy. And whatever you don't use, you can fill in a ice cube tray. If you're using it within the week, you can just store it in the fridge, make another soup or make a double batch of this. And you just want to stir this until all the ingredients kind of melt together and you don't see any streaks of the coconut milk, okay? It will take some time for that to heat back up, especially if your coconut milk is colder or if your broth is colder. So I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit. So from there, you're going to get your blender ready. In real life, you're going to let this cook for about 20 minutes, just for all the flavors to meld together and for the coconut milk to turn back into liquid again. You want to cook it for about 20 minutes. Right now, what we're going to do, as soon as it's heated, we're just going to put it in the blender. But if you're doing this at home, let it cook. The longer you let it kind of simmer and cook on the stovetop, the better the flavor will be. Also, if you have a couple days, if you have like a day or two that you can wait, it actually tastes a lot better the day after you cook it. Because it just gives the flavors a chance to get more intense. I'm just gonna put this on the side here. So another thing you can do, as I was saying, while this is kind of cooking, you can get your lime juice ready, and you can get all your add-ins ready. So if you are using any herbs, you can do that now. You can cut them up, make sure you have them on the side. So you would just put them on just as you're serving it, because like I said, it tastes different when you cook those fresh herbs. You don't want to use them right when you're cooking in it. You want to make sure that you're using it right when you're serving it. Okay. So I'm going to start squeezing out the lime juice. If you just joined us, a little hack that we did with the limes is actually you can roll it in between your hands, or you can roll it on your countertop just to get more lime juice out, because we're looking to get 3 tablespoons of lime. So I'm just going to get a knife so we can cut that up. And again, if you have like one of those fancy, really like micro graters, it's really good to add some of the rind in your soup just before serving as well. So you don't want to go too far in. The further you get in to the lime, the more bitter it is. So if you just stay on the surface of the lime, it gives you a way better flavor than the bitterness of grinding it right down. Okay. So I think I said 3 tablespoons of lime juice. Is actually just 2, but you'll probably get that from 2 to 3 limes. So I'm just going to cut this in half on my cutting board. While my soup is simmering, squeeze that in. So you can see there's a lot of lime juice coming out after we use that technique. A lot more than just cutting it in half. So what you can do is squeeze it and then put it in half. Just take your thumb, don't know if you can see it. Take your thumb, squeeze it in half again, and then allow you to get a bit more out. Limes are expensive right now. They're imported, so they're pretty expensive. So you want to try to get as much juice out as possible. Okay, so I have about a tablespoon and a half with just the 2 limes. So I'm gonna, sorry, just the 1 lime. So I'm gonna cut up another one here. Before that, I'm just gonna give my soup a stir, and I'm gonna actually let it cool, because you do want it cooled down before you put it in the blender. Okay. So I'm gonna stir it and let it cool. Obviously, if you put it in the blender too hot, if you have a plastic blender, it's gonna melt it. But B, when you mix hot things in a blender, the lid will definitely pop off. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to fully tighten your lid. You want to make sure there's enough space for some of the steam to come out. So I'm just squeezing my next lime here. I'm actually going to pull my soup off of the element, because the element's going to be pretty hot. I'm just going to give this a wipe so you guys don't have to look at my my dirty stove top from all the cutting. So lime juice is done. You can always take your measuring spoon, make sure you have the adequate amount. That's over here. I'm gonna stir my soup one more time before I put it in my blender. Again, you can use just a hand blender right in your bowl, instead of putting it in your blending cup, blending jar. Makes it a lot easier for cleanup as well. If you have just a submersion blender, it's a lot easier, less things to clean. You just rinse it off. Actually, it's an immersion blender. I always get that word wrong. So I'm going to try to do this without making too much of a mess. Heavy cast iron skillet, so bear with me. Make a couple splashes. This over here. I did get a lot of the soup on me. So I'm not gonna put the lid on. I'm not sure if I can bring this close enough for you guys to see here. Maybe I'll go this way. So I have it in the blender there. I'm gonna put my lid over it so I don't splash all over my kitchen. But I'm not gonna close the lid. And depending on how you like your soup, some people like it a bit more chunky. I like mine a bit chunky, so I'm not gonna blend up too much. I'm gonna start at low. Okay. So obviously, if you like it a bit more liquidy, you can do that. You would just put it in for a bit longer. But if you like more of a chunky soup, then don't do it too much. I have pumpkin all over me. So once it's mixed up, you're gonna put your lemon in now. And mix it one more time. Sorry, I said lemon, but it's lime. My bad there. Mixing up my citrus fruit. And put this over here. I'm just gonna get a bowl. So once you're done, what you can do is just pour it in your bowl. Super hot, so be careful. Like I said, I like my soup a bit thicker, so I'm not gonna put any more liquid into it. But if you like yours a bit thinner, by all means, you can put a bit more broth. You can even add water if the flavor is really strong. You can just add a little bit of water, but broth's probably the best way to go. And then from here, this is where you're gonna add in your herbs. So I'm gonna grab some Thai basil and cilantro, and I'm gonna grab a red chili. Use my cutting board here. I'm gonna give it a rinse. You guys can see the soup there. I'll put it right there. Back a little bit. All right. I'm gonna just clear off my cutting board. And this is kind of where you put your own spin on the recipe. You can change the flavor profile by adding different herbs. So I really like cilantro, so I'm gonna put a lot of cilantro in mine. I'm gonna move this over. So with cilantro, you wanna just take it off the stem. You can cut it with the stem too. The stem just has a bit more of a bitter taste to it. If you don't like cilantro, use a smaller amount and cut it up smaller. If you like cilantro, then obviously you can use as much as you want. I love cilantro. So I'm just gonna do as much as I like here. And you can put that right on top as a garnish. If you like chives or green onion, you can do that too. But I'm a big fan of cilantro. It's one of those things either love or you hate, and I really like it. Then I'm gonna use my pepper. So with the peppers, if you're, like I said, if you're not into spicy food, what you can do is actually take the seeds out, because that's the seeds and kind of the ribs of the pepper is where the spice comes from. So you can see there, there's the seeds, there's the ribs. So if you want to just get the flavor of the pepper, what you can do is cut all that out. You can use a smaller knife, it's easier to work with. De-seed it, cut the ribs out. And then you have something that looks like this. So all the seeds are gone, all the ribs are gone. So it's still going to be super spicy. Keep that in mind. You'll still get some spice there, but it'll just be less intense. Okay. If you do like the spice, what I would suggest is actually, it looks nicer when you cut it straight down. So you get like these little red circles. It doesn't look as nice when you have to de-seed it and then cut it in half. But it looks really nice against the cilantro and the basil. So I'm just going to do that there. Thai basil you can use, or you can use regular basil. Sometimes it's hard to find Thai basil at the grocery store. I just happened to see it, so I picked up some Thai basil. It looks a bit different than regular basil. It's smaller, less round. I'm trying to figure out which screen to point at. So you can see it's a little bit different than regular basil, like Italian basil. Same thing. You can do strips, like long strips. It doesn't really have a super intense taste. But if you don't like basil, obviously, I don't think you're gonna like Thai basil. It's slightly different than regular basil. So I'm just gonna throw that in. So that's kind of like what it looks like when you're done. I'll throw it up this way. I don't know if you can see it. I'll do this one. So you just put your garnish on. Like I said, this is where you kind of add your own flavor to it. If you want, you can add any other herbs that you like. You could throw in some extra lemongrass as well if you really like lemongrass. Also, you can throw in some cooked shrimp, chicken, just to add some protein to the soup. You can also serve it with like some toasted bread. Especially in the fall and winter, it's nice to have something warm to come home to. This is super easy to cook during the week and have either at the end of the week or on weekends. Really easy to batch cook this. You can have it in the fridge and pull it out when you get home from school or work. It's something that you can just put in the microwave super quick. If you don't use a microwave, you can put it in a pot and it'll start to warm up within like 5 minutes. So something that you can easily just pull out of the fridge. The spices help warm you up after a long day. And again, you can kind of increase or decrease the spice, whatever you like. proteins, like I said, chicken, pork would be good too, like thin slice of pork if you eat pork. If you're vegetarian and you want to add protein in it, you could add some tofu. You could add some chickpeas. Roasted chickpeas would be awesome as well. So that's it for this recipe in this episode. If you guys have any questions, just holler them out, or you can put them in the chat. Thank you for joining us. I hope you guys get to try it. Like I said, like it's pretty. After you've cooked all the vegetables and melted everything together, you can kind of put your own spin on it with whatever herbs you like. Some people like it a bit sweeter too, so I will add that. Like if you want to add some honey to it, not a lot, but some people like their soup a little bit of honey or maple syrup or even just sugar. And I'm not saying like big amounts, but it gives it a nice flavor profile when you have the heat and the sweetness. But you will get some of that sweetness from the pumpkin. So thanks for joining us. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Did you have a question, Mark? I think you might be muted.
Well, hi. I just want to ask you, would it be possible for you to send me the recipes in a document, some kind of a document format, and a link to the video so I could watch it again?
Yeah, absolutely. So this video was recorded, and we do have the recipes and the ingredient list and the steps. I just want to make sure that we have your email address. Like you registered for today's session, right?
Yeah, I was sure I registered it, and I also shot you an email just a few minutes ago. So,
awesome.
So you should find an email from in your inbox from me.
Perfect. So I can do that for sure. Yeah, I'll send you all that.
Thanks very much, Chris.
No problem. It's good to see you again. Have a great day.
You too. You have a great day too. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye.